the Plan Commission, regular Plan Commission meeting for February 3rd, 2022 to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Laura, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Gaskell? Commissioner Gatto?
Present.
Commissioner Lasciuto?
Present.
Commissioner Manny?
Present.
Commissioner Shaw?
Present.
Commissioner Truxell?
Present.
Commissioner Merrick? Chairman Gray?
Okay, we have a quorum established. And are there any communications at this time?
There's not.
Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting, regular meeting from January 20th, 2022. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Moved Commissioner Gatto, second.
Second.
Second Commissioner Manny. Any comments, corrections, or discussion on the minutes from the previous meeting? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes from the January 20th, 2022 meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion passes. All right, we have one item on the agenda for this evening, and it looks like a good one. It's a workshop, RJ's Seafood Building Addition and Patio at 18201 Harlem Avenue, a special use for PUD and site plan architectural approval. With that, you have a staff report?
Yes, thank you. So I've provided an image right up here up front to show what the proposal is. The location here is at the northeast corner of Harlem and 183rd Street. The site is part of the Cornerstone Center planned unit development. So I've noted that in red, so you can see it's roughly an L-shaped type of development with two long buildings and an outlot, which is a bank on the corner. The subject building is the northern building. At the northernmost portion of that is the subject space. There are several businesses in this area. There's south of the space an AT&T, a physical therapy, several other high occupancy, high activity type of tenants in the development. Also Rico Loco, Runa Izakaya, Al's Beef, other service-related uses. The site has currently 3 trash enclosures, and sort of surrounding it to the north and east is residential development, the Glen Swilly residences. Notably, this space that we're talking about, it's an existing space that is the former Tin Fish restaurant. So for zoning, as you can see, it's the Cornerstone Center PUD. Now, it has 2 underlying zoning parts. The PUD was originally established in 1998. The split between B3 and B4, you can see above. The B4 has a specific designation different to the more intense B3. So I'll just note it as from the staff report. It's normally small in size and intended to serve as a buffer or transition between residential and commercial areas, primarily to provide office space for service-type businesses. B4 was designated at that northern building due to its already reduced rear yard setback and close proximity to these residential homes to the north and east. So in general, it's a limited type of intensity as compared to the B3, further south in that PUD. With the site plan and surveys, you'll see the orientation is left is to the north. So you can see 182nd Street is one major point of access to the site, as well as to the right further south, an entry point onto Harlem. And I've just noted the length of the building. You can see that there are three main entry points with sort of columnar elements. And the three trash receptacles on the whole development, two of them you can see here on the survey. One is to the north and one is to the south. The third one on the development is all the way at the east end of the site. So this is notable because one of the three trash enclosures is proposed for removal. That is the one you see there to the left by 182nd. Other things about the site, there's a surrounding walkway, so it just kind of wraps around the building. And there's, where that left northern trash is, the access to that is currently uncurbed. And so for the proposed use, this concept of RJ Seafood is the latest concept that Francesca's Restaurant Group is coming forward with. So it is proposed as a full-scale quality dining establishment. And the petitioners we have here, we have a representative from Francesca's who can go into a little more detail. But they're a well-established group founded in 1992 with 6 concepts across 23 locations in 2 states. Number of Francesca's restaurants, as well as you may be familiar with Fat Rosie's Tacos and Tequilas, Tequila Bars, DeSoto's, Joe's Imports, and Vasilis. So the concept involves the existing tenant space along with the area that's to the north of the tenant space. And they're wanting to propose a building addition with a covered, a trellised, or they may say canopy, or louvered canopy type of patio with a concrete grounding that will be flush to the curb. There'll be exterior lighting as well, landscaping, a nano-wall partition on the existing building. And in order to make the space for this, they're proposing to remove one of the trash enclosures. So functionally, as far as the use is concerned, this addition will be what we call back of house, so not intended for the customers, but just for service-related items, so mostly a walk-in cooler, as well as a trash holding area, and a point of sale station, storage for ice. The patio, which will be curbed flush up to the existing concrete walkway, will basically provide, with the nano-wall operable partition on the existing building, that'll provide for a nice transition for the guest experience to dine in, dine out. And the addition of the numerous planters and plantings that provided will help beautify and screen parts of the space. So this is coming as a special use for a planned unit development, or substantial deviation to the planned unit development for a few reasons. Increase in building density, changes to the site plan, and a reduction in setbacks. All right, so the applicant had provided an overall site plan, which is the extent of the, goes a little bit beyond the extent of the work of their site, and then a detailed site plan. So here on the overall, trying to give a big picture, there at the far upper left, because left is north, is the addition. And then what would be just below it, just to the west of the addition, is the concrete patio. There's landscaping, proposed foundational plantings around the east and north of the addition, as well as some planter boxes with plantings on the west side between the addition and the patio, the trellis patio. And the other aspects of the site, as you go beyond that area, they're proposing 3 large planters in the concrete walkway space that's just west of the existing tenant space. Staff also inquired how loading would be occurring. So I've noted it would be in the drive aisle area immediately west of the planter. That'll be done early morning hours, 7 up until as late as 10 in the morning. The proposed setback from the property line, you can see there it's dashed in black. They're proposing 10 feet from the north property line. The addition's wall will be made flush to the existing building. As I mentioned, the concrete patio ground will be flush with the walkway curb. In regards to considering civil engineering and stormwater, the petitioner did provide civil engineering drawings and has submitted this proposal to MWRD for determination on whether an MWRD permit will be required or not. MWRD may consider the current and past site improvements in regards to the cumulative area and the development to see if that may possibly trigger anything such as a volume control for the site. In the review process, however, our village engineer has reviewed the civil drawings and provided a few minor comments, which were incorporated in the last round that we had with the applicant. So this is a detail showing the site plan. As I mentioned, there's numerous planters and plantings. So in green are just the planter boxes that are proposed. The ones to the far south, those three, they're going to be a different style than the remainder ones around the patio area. The addition itself is a 525 square foot addition, 35 feet north to south and 15 feet east to west. As I noted, the patio itself has a number of these plantings. Most of them are, or some of them are within this trellised patio area. Some of them are outside of that. There is a wall of them on the line of them on the wall of the addition. And then there are a series of three that are between the drive aisle and the trellis. So one other notable thing is just noted like a dark brown there. I've identified where this fencing will occur. So and there's two different heights. On the the long part of it, that's the north fence that runs east to west on the northernmost part of the patio. This fencing is proposed more as like a fence wall, solid cedar, 10 foot 2 in height. And then the other two portions of the fencing wrapping around the west and part of the south are much lower, 52 inches. Other things on the site, one thing to note, there are wheel stops on the site, at the parking stalls. They're not shown here, but that is a point of consideration to, that's in our favor, right, for the three planters that you see. Okay, so regarding waste management, 3 trash enclosures on the site, which a very high occupancy site has had some challenges in having the dumpsters corralled and enclosed in. Our building code requires this. So with the removal of one of these trash enclosures in development, staff wanted to do the best to ensure, work with the owner of the property that removing one of these enclosures wouldn't cause any further issues or exacerbate the situation. So the owner is working with Homewood Disposal Company, and they've worked to reduce, share, and label the receptacles for all the tenants in the development. And for this proposal for RJ Seafood, they've provided the space as well for the grease container, which is a product that some restaurants may choose to send out. And then as far as the enclosures, the staff has noted that this the situation of the trying to reduce and label and everything works to one degree, but having it under a single uniform waste hauler is likely, that's actively managed by the property owner, is likely the only way that this is going to realistically work going forward as tenants change. And we've noted here as one of the important open items to discuss this removal of the enclosure and staff's recommended condition related to the requirements that the owner manage a single waste hauler contract on the property. For landscaping, this is a section that their landscape drawings show that basically cuts through. You can see 182nd Street and the Parkway with the sidewalk. And then I think it's about 1 or 2 feet to the property line and the proposed landscaping and 10-foot 2 fence wall. So then the dining area would be just to the right of that. And the plantings that they're proposing are 4 deciduous crimson spire oaks. These are very tall deciduous trees, about 45 feet maximum height. And then numerous plantings that go with it, these lower yews and hydrangeas that, do full branching to the ground. So this is a section that staff feels is pretty helpful in understanding what the impact could be visually for folks to the north. In this case, there are residences just across the street. And then the rest of the landscaping, as included in the packet, has the full landscaping plan that there wasn't too much proposed to remove. There were 3 very large evergreen trees that are at the far northeast end of the site. They're very large, they're overgrown, so they already go onto the property line quite a bit, and it would go over where the addition would be proposed. So those 3 trees are proposed for removal. There are also a few small bushes on the peninsula between the parking, just north of the parking, that's proposed for removal. In the place of that, the 4 crimson spire oaks, you can see them that basically align along with where the patio would be, and then running a line all the parallel to that, along with the trees all the way up to the far east of the site, are the yews and hydrangeas. And then the petitioners also proposed a run of bush landscaping to go to the rear of the building on the east side for the length of the proposed addition. And then as far as the planter boxes, so there are a few different types of plantings that are proposed. The foundational plantings, it would be plantings in the ground. On the west wall, however, it's proposed, there are plantings proposed in a planter box, series of planter boxes. Landscape drawings identify these as piglet dwarf fountain grass. And then the planters on the interior of the trellis are just seasonal annuals. On the west side of the patio are green mountain boxwoods and other boxwoods in the 3 large planters further south. So staff has noted for open items to discuss the proposed screening for the nearby residences and to discuss the height of the piglet dwarf fountain grass on the addition's west wall. In one of the renderings, if you've noticed, they're very beautiful, very colorful renderings, but you can see there's what appears to be like a green wall that extends up the height of the west side of the addition wall. So just like clarification on the height of that. Here are the renderings. So you can see the trellis or louvered canopy, as you could call it, with the 3 large planters in the front. They all sit on top of a proposed 9-inch curb that lines flush with the other existing curbs on the site. And the crimson spire oaks on the left, and further down in the lower picture you can see the 3 planters. And then here are a couple other renderings. At bottom one here you can see the downspout, which is done in a similar manner to what is continuing down the existing building. And there's a little parkway tree that's existing, will stay there. And you could see the height of the addition is actually lower. It's at a top height of 15 feet. And you can see that it's got if you look at the image above, especially the nature of the existing materials kind of lines up with the nature of what they're proposing here as well. So one very helpful elevation drawing to look at is the north elevation due to the concern of residents just across the street. So as I noted, addition is 15 feet high. And a dash on the left is You can see a little rectangle, that's the condensing unit, so it will be fully enclosed. It has a deep parapet, so the height with the parapet is 15 feet. The existing building, 20 and a half feet, and the trellis is 11 foot 3 inches high. The fence wall is 10 foot 2, it basically goes up to where the base of the top of the structure would be, just to meet the trellis. So here's a little more detail with the materials. So the existing building is brick with painted stucco. It's got this nice detailed cornice. There's split face CMU, and between that CMU and the brick is this horizontal band. There are several black awnings, and there are light fixtures, that have exposed light coming off of them with 3 decorative kind of stone rectangular elements below that. So what the applicant has proposed is, staff suggestion, to visually align with this. They've provided basically material, they've identified what manufacturers and colors that they'd like to do, as you can see to the right. And in the drawings, they've noted these decorative elements and trying to keep a similar aesthetic to the building, and especially with the addition being so close to the property line, so close to the sidewalk. It's nice to give it something, right? Because there's not going to be a window or a door or anything onto 182nd. The doors, I made a note there. So the addition, which is the back of house, it will just have double metal doors that lead out to the patio. It faces Harlem. And then that nano wall that I mentioned will be on the existing building where there currently is a door on the north face of that, and that'll be for the guests to come through. The fence, as I noted, has the different heights, but it's all one type of material and color. It's cedar. They've spec'd it as dark walnut. The renderings look a little bit lighter than that. The trellis is spec'd as black. The planters also black, a permanent reinforced fiberglass. Staff would just need the applicant to confirm the height. There is what appears to be a discrepancy on one of the drawings. And then planters at the walkway, those 3 large planters, it's to be determined what the materials are. The petitioners ordered samples. In regards to that, staff has noted that they should consult this with the owner, that if any other parts of the development were to wish to have something like that in the future, it should be of a similar style, and it should overall complement the existing architecture and materials. As far as lighting, lighting is in compliance with code. So there are no exposed bulbs. It's very straightforward. The trellis has posts and beams, so there's 8 on the posts and 12 on the ceilings as downlights. And the code also specifies if you're going from non-residential to residential, you cannot exceed 0.1 foot candles. So they've met that and in some cases have exceeded that, complied beyond that. Then the last item I have here is regarding the signage. So they're proposing a wall sign at the west entry, 40 square feet, illuminated, halo lit, dark blue steel letters with a font as shown. Existing ground signs also will be utilized with the new tenant panels. And there's a note with the PUD regarding PUDs. Sometimes you have sign plans that may differ from the zoning code otherwise. It was amended recently to remove previous requirements. It was very specific before, so the color, font, et cetera, has been given some flexibility. So overall, it complies. And other than that, that concludes staff's presentation. I've got the open items up here on the screen. And then here in the audience, we've got Bob Pillows and Rachel Crowell from FC Studio, Robin Jones from Francesca's, and Derek and Ramzi Hassan, property owners.
Okay, thank you. Before we proceed with the commissioner questions and comments, this is a workshop, so it's not a public hearing. It's just to work through a few things before we proceed to public hearing. But is there anyone representing the owner want to have anything to say? You don't have to. We can just go through the process here. And if we ask you some questions, that's fine. But I just wanted to see if you had anything to add before we move on to that point. No? Okay. So as we move through, Lori, I was looking at some of the open items here, and it would be good before we get started, just to highlight which of these, from your perspective, might need some discussion and which are just simply for our reference that staff is working on with the owner, so we focus our time.
Yes, thank you. Number 3 is discussing the removal of the trash enclosure and staff's recommended condition related to the requirements that the owner manage a single waste hauler contract. That's fairly substantial. Also, number 4, discuss the proposed screening from the nearby residents. That's a combination of fencing working along with the tall landscaping of the oak trees. And depending on what the petitioner has to say about the plantings on the west wall, if that's a green wall or not, that could be substantial. Architectural compatibility, and that's about it at this point. Item number 8, which is the design of the 3 walkway planters. Unless the petitioner has anything further at this point, there was nothing as of last Friday.
Okay, excellent. That helps. So we'll go ahead and proceed with the commissioners, and given that Commissioner Lachute is all on his own over on this side, we'll start there.
Thank you, Chairman. So first I want to say that, I think overall the project looks great, and I think this will be a great addition to Tinley Park. I'm really excited about this. I did want some clarification with the open item number 3 with regards to the trash enclosures. So as it sits right now, I know there's 3 shared trash enclosures. Are they all, do each occupant have different contracts with different haulers as it stands right now? And then the solution would be then to put them all under one contract? Is that my understanding?
The property owners are here to speak in further detail. Prior to this project coming here to Plan Commission, the tenants were all separate, and staff has been working over the last couple of months to get them to work with a unified hauler. So by consolidating and labeling and getting them to all work together with Homewood Disposal, that's a step in the right solution. The owner provided a letter as such, is in the packet. But as I said, the owners can speak further if they wish.
I think you're yeah, if you could. just-
It's probably best because we are recording the meeting. We can hear you, but
Sure. Yeah, when we took over the shopping center a number of years ago, every tenant had a separate contract for their own trash. And so, each individual tenant had their own receptacle behind the building in their back doors. So, really those existing trash enclosures were kind of underutilized to begin with. So they already have new contracts in place with Homewood Disposal, so that's already in motion. The only thing we're waiting for is some of these other companies to remove their receptacles, so we can now fit the new ones inside the trash enclosures. So everything's sort of been logistically figured out already. Homewood is confident that there's more than enough room with the remaining 2 trash enclosures to support all the tenants, including RJ's. That's already underway. So now there's going to be shared dumpsters, shared recycling bins, and shared grease traps. Everything's going to be labeled accordingly, so every tenant knows where their trash and recycling is supposed to go, and it shouldn't be an issue. And I anticipate, within another week or so for everything to be inside the enclosures and already buttoned up.
great.
And they've been really good working with us, so this was obviously identified. We don't go out looking for issues and violations, but when we were taking a look at this and they were removing one of the 3 trash enclosures, it just kind of sparked some okay, so there's already some issues out there, this could make it worse, we don't wanna make it worse, so we've been working with them, and they're, halfway there to getting it kind of wrapped up at this point. But I think our thought was going forward, this is really the only way it works. If everybody goes back to having their own dumpsters again, they're gonna be out in the back, it's gonna be a mess over there again, so.
So
That's
it-
where we thought, kind of solidifying this, and they seem perfectly open to that, going forward. But if they do sell it, we wanna make sure, can we enforce, the next owners that maybe don't have this knowledge? We can make sure they also keep it going, because I get it, sometimes it's easier to just let the tenants all manage their own, but then it's really tough to say, hey, you gotta fit this all in a pretty tight space if you have one hauler. They manage it, they work directly with the owner, can increase pickups if there's problems, so instead of doing 2 or 3 days a week, they can pick it up 6 days a week if they needed to, so.
Sounds good.
And,
Well, so just, I have some questions on this topic too.
yeah, this is a follow-up.
Yeah, so I'm going to let you finish,
Okay.
and before we move on to anything else, this is a big topic, and so I just want to make sure we go down.
Just as a follow-up then, this is maybe more directed at, for RJ's, but, so it's my understanding that your garbage will be kept in the addition that you're going to be building and then walked every night to the closest enclosure where the dumpsters are gonna be, held. About how far of a distance are we looking at with regards to, transporting the garbage to the enclosure?
Yes, if you wouldn't mind.
I was gonna say, we did bring it up as a concern to that. It is pretty far. It's the whole length of the building. So they're going out the kind of back where the trash is in front of other tenants. So we did bring that up, saying, can you manage this? Because sometimes restaurants worry about security concerns and things like that.
And then I was, with the grease, right? Isn't
Yeah.
the grease receptacle also gonna be in the enclosure then? Okay, so.
And
It
there
is.
can be some leaks from the ones
That's-
you
yeah,
roll
that's
and
kinda
stuff,
what
so
I
that
was-
was kind of a concern.
Yeah, that's actually a question I had, is just to the extent you've figured it out, what is the plan, the path from point A to point B?
Well, there's only one path, and it's from the holding area, which is part of the addition, around the north side of the building, and then walking south. So the plan is to transport the trash after hours, so as not to interface with any customers, have everyone gone by that time. So we designed this holding area to keep everything secure throughout the day, and then we will march it down to the garbage, to the dumpsters to be picked up. Mhm. How many feet is that?
210 feet is
Two-
the linear width. of the
210 feet.
building.
And also, sometimes, we've had this situation and also in other multi-tenant buildings where maybe they don't even have like a back exit, so. I wanna say like Just Shrimp, they don't actually have a back exit out there and they have to like wheel it. And luckily that tenant actually owns it. The gyro place, wheels it through the gyro place, but they actually go down the front. Sometimes you just need to do maintenance to make sure, hey, if you're wheeling garbage, you gotta make sure if something gets on the sidewalks, maybe you gotta power wash them or something like that.
Yeah, and obviously, it's something to consider at the planning stage, but at that point, that's a property maintenance issue, right?
Right. And there is no back sidewalk, so this is really the most direct way to reach those garbage cans.
The one alternative, if there was some issue in the future, would be to maybe build one in the parking lot. But I think, for now, I think everybody's hoping this solution works, and maybe if there is an ongoing issue, then we can look at that one, because it takes up some parking. It'll be out kind of near the roadway. There's really not too many alternatives, right? So, I think we're hopeful this will work out and everybody will manage it.
So on the subject of trash, any more questions there?
No further questions.
Because this is an important one, and I don't want to have to keep going back and forth on topics, from any of the other commissioners, starting at the end, Commissioner Truxell?
Yep, I have similar concerns. What's directly behind the building? once the addition is added? Is it grass space? Is there a street behind there, or is it directly attached to the residential area?
Let me pull up the survey.
It's a 10-foot easement, right?
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, well, there's 10-foot setback of grass, and then there's the other side of that property line is residential townhomes.
So there's no,
There's a setback there.
is
on
there a
their
roadway
side.
between the setback and the residential area?
Correct, yeah.
There is?
And that's.
No.
There's no roadway.
no.
And
So, yeah.
there's a fence and the 10-foot.
Yeah.
And at that point, that's where the lower 52-inch fence was? Is that correct?
At the back of the building? No.
I think
No,
that's a
there's an
6.
existing, probably 10-foot tall, white privacy fence.
So the existing trash
all the way to the
enclosure
property line.
is accessed, what, from 182nd Street? That picture right there, that's the existing trash, right?
Yeah.
So where does the pickup? where's the truck
Currently,
come
they
from?
come in just from the parking lot, but they could either get there
So
from.
that looks like a driveway that leads into that box that says trash then?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
So right now, it's a trash enclosure area.
Yeah.
Anyways, they'll be putting a building where that trash enclosure is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
It
I
also
see.
kind of helps buffer the patio from those residents too. It kind of works in that capacity, so.
So the concern I have is the same thing. You're running grease and garbage down the sidewalk, which would be a problem on a nightly basis. So do you make them go through the parking lot and not on the sidewalks? I don't know. But the same concern I have is, the other guys. So, that's, there's really no other option though. I was gonna suggest maybe put the trash behind the new addition, but there's no way to access that, so.
No, and there's a utility easement on everything else on
Yeah,
it as
so you can't
well,
touch that.
so. And 10 foot's kind of, that's already was a waiver of the code when they built this originally. I just think it's supposed to be like a 30-foot rear yard setback.
Okay.
But 10 foot's kind of the bare minimum.
The other concern I had, there's really not a concern, it's a question. So the fencing that's gonna be on the north wall, is more like a sound barrier, really. So is there any stipulation that that remains if the business changes hands? Like another restaurant takes over? I mean, is that something we could stipulate?
Yeah,
It's not
I
on,
mean, it'll be
it's not on
part
these
of-
guys, but obviously.
Yeah, it's part of the approved site plan, and that'll be attached as part of the substantial deviation.
It has to
too.
remain, right?
We could certainly clarify that, though, if that's a
It's
concern.
effectively part of the structure,
Should be.
right?
What's
It's effectively part of the structure at that point, once approved and built?
Yeah,
I'm just thinking if the new owners wants to open it up. Oh, look at the beautiful trees. Let's take this fence down or this wood wall. So I think that's gonna be an important sound barrier for the residents on the north side.
We would have to come back for the substantial deviation.
yes, and if
Probably
it
need
is
a
a major
demo permit.
concern, I always sometimes err on the side of over clarifying things, so we can always add it as a condition that if the patio is gonna be occupied,
Yep.
they must have the approved landscaping and.
Those are my two questions, my topics. So thank you.
Okay. I wanted to give everyone time to ask all the questions, but anything specific to the trash question? Commissioner Gatto?
No, I have nothing.
Commissioner Manny?
No, those, my concerns were.
Okay,
answered.
great. I just wanted to clarify a point, just for my understanding. It sounds like the whole question of the trash was something that was, to a degree, self-identified at the time they came in to apply, and it sounds like, something was already in the works. This goes a little bit beyond our scope, but I just want to understand, is going to a single trash hauler, is that, you're dictating that, the owner is dictating that to the tenants? Is that, as you renew leases, that's a requirement in the lease? Okay, all right, excellent, all right. And with respect to the addition, it looks from the print that the addition will be entered from the patio through a double door. I couldn't actually tell. It looked like it was also connected to the main building. Is that correct? So that it becomes part of the building and not just a attachment, is that right?
The existing building has a surrounding walkway on the north and west, and this patio is just north of that walkway. So one could enter from the walkway without having to go into the restaurant.
And so
Right.
there is a door on the addition that's gonna be employee only, so you won't have any public access through that. So it's only really gonna be it's mostly gonna be accessed just through the building and attached to the building. And then
Right.
you just kinda have the one door.
No, that answers it. My reason in asking the question was really just around understanding, is this effectively a trash enclosure that's just connected to the building? But it sounds like there's gonna be a walk-in cooler, there's gonna be a POS station, and if it connects to the interior of the building, that it's effectively just part of the building. So,
Yeah, I think the goal was for them to pick up more space, so I'll say often we'll get requests to basically put coolers on the outsides of buildings, which our code doesn't really allow for, so you have to enclose it in a building, but you're usually trying to pick up more floor space
Yep.
within the restaurant, so I think that's what they're doing here. With the addition is try and pick up more floor space instead of eating it up with the cooler and the trash area.
Okay.
Or running trash all at a higher rate if you didn't have that trash area. Every single time it filled up, you'd have to be bringing it out.
well, it sounds to me like we've exhausted the trash question. So I'm just gonna go back to Commissioner Lusciuto for the balance of any other topics. And unless another major one comes up, we'll wrap up with you.
So just, again, this is more out of curiosity, because I do like the architecture, I like the plans and everything. The outdoor space, is that just gonna be seasonal, or do you guys plan on using that in the winter seasons also, closing it off and heating it, or is that just gonna be spring, summer, fall?
It'll just be seasonal,
Oh.
spring, summer, fall.
Okay. I have no other questions.
Okay, are there specific hours of operations that would be limiting on this from the village side? Other than your standard noise codes? Okay.
Yeah, we
So,
don't really regulate business hours of operation. Liquor license can obviously, the liquor commission and the commissioner can choose to regulate hours. They might have an anticipated hours, but we usually don't hold them to that from a zoning perspective.
sounds good. And I would expect from a liquor license perspective, it's a separate procedure, and so we're not gonna worry about that. Heading back down, Commissioner Truxell, did you have any other items?
One last question, I think. Overall, the design is beautiful. I agree with the other commissioner. It's going to be very nice. The last question I had was, if that's a banquet area, is there any thoughts of maybe having live entertainment when the banquet area isn't being used? Maybe a small band or anything like that may be a concern for the residents?
We don't have any plans for that. And in terms, it's intended to be an extension of the dining room, so not necessarily a banquet space. We do have a banquet space at the opposite end of the building that we're not looking at today. So this would just be for general dining.
Purely dining only?
Yes.
Okay. No, nothing else for me, thanks.
Commissioner Gatto?
I agree with the other commissioners. I like the design. It looks great. Besides the trash enclosures, that's the only, issue that I see. But I'm sure, the property manager will address that with, you if there seems to be issues. I do have a question though. You guys were originally looking at the boulevard to be put in there, correct? Like, what happened with that whole plan? Do you know anything about that? Yeah.
The
Yeah, the boulevard was originally when that plan came to us, Francesca wrote and said they were gonna put something into the bottom of that, and that space has an outdoor seating area. So that's why I, like, when I seen this come on, and I'm like, well, that's strange, cause originally, do you guys remember that or no?
I don't recall.
No? Yeah. Do you remember, Dan?
No, well, so I know it had changed after that, right? And we had, the former owner of, what's the place in Frankfurt on LaGrange?
Dancing Marlin.
Yeah, Dancing Marlin. So that was the one that had gone the far enough. I-
But like the original?
I think they just had a letter of intent of.
From
we'd
Francesca.
look- Yeah,
Okay.
we'd look at
Okay.
it. I just don't think they ever got an agreement
Okay.
of what restaurant and worked out details with the
Okay.
property owner, so. I
It was
think
just
that-
a letter of intent?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
yeah, it was just, when I seen that it was Francesca's again, I was like, well, what happened to the boulevard? Because that space is still empty.
Yeah, I don't even know if it was a true letter of intent or it was just, we're maybe interested here.
Okay.
I don't think they had any details worked out though.
All right, Commissioner Manning?
Yes, I like the design and concept for this, project. I'm just thinking the new addition to, I would like it to make sure it matches like the existing building, so it doesn't look like a bad afterthought, if you will, just so it could be like seamless. But besides that, I like it.
All right, very good. So I just want to clarify, because it was asked by Commissioner Truxell about the potential for some sort of live entertainment on the outside. For my own thought, I actually think that would be great. It goes along with the village's branding theme and, makes for a nice environment. Looks to be like it's going to be a classy restaurant, so not, some jarring, very loud one. But it's a consideration, I think, like with the liquor license. And if I'm understanding you, Commissioner Truxell, I just want to make sure I understand that you're not proposing that be a condition as we go.
No, it's just a question, in consideration as the residents that are right across the street.
Mhm.
But I think with the wall, the north side wall, and you have a brick wall on the back side too, the sound should go pretty much straight up or towards the south. I don't think it's gonna be a big issue, it's just more or less something to think about. If it becomes a problem down the road, I don't think it shouldn't be, it's dining only, but I think there's an opportunity there where maybe a quieter one-piece band or whatever, can pull it off there, so that is the only reason I brought it up, really.
Yep.
Not a condition or a stipulation, no, nothing like that.
And they're a good neighbor, I think, so, I mean, we have codes if like that was a big problem. I don't suspect that they're gonna be putting full
No,
bands out there getting complaints and
It's gonna be
Yeah.
those are
nice.
gonna be their customers
It's a
too,
nice
right?
area,
So,
it's gonna be a nice patio.
I think Francesca's will run a tight ship there, but yeah, if you did an acoustic thing or, the north side of the building that connects to the patio, actually the walls open up, right? So that you could maybe have them inside
Yeah.
and then you'd hear some of that on the patio or something, so. if they
Yeah,
do
it's
decide
an
to,
important
we can
topic.
work it out.
It's an important topic to make sure that it's brought up and addressed, right? So, but we have existing noise ordinances and, should something become a problem down the road, it'll be dealt with. But I agree. I just want to say for my part, I like the design, I like the concept, and frankly, having been a neighbor in this type of environment, I would think some of the neighbors would actually appreciate the change instead of a big garbage truck, beep, beep, backing up in there to empty the trash. This is a more attractive solution here. And in as well, I think the landscaping and the wall, I mean, it's just a really nice visual. The question I had about the wall itself, it's hard to tell from rendering sometimes. When I first saw it, I thought it was like a brick, stone. And it's cedar, but is it ventilated cedar, or is it solid? Are there intended to be openings in there? Just,
It's proposed to solid, but the architect.
Well,
answered.
it would be wood slab, but we would not have openings through the slab.
okay, so it's slats, but it's solid?
Yes.
Okay, all right. That's what I thought. I just wanted to confirm that. And this is those crimson spires that you mentioned, the tall deciduous trees there. I'm not familiar with them, and I don't want to go deep into the horticulture or anything like that, but you said that they're full and they're tall. Do they also have low foliage, so it'll be low to the ground, as far as you know? Probably don't have any landscaping experts in here either, right?
The landscape architect specified those, but I think the imagery is close to reflect, sort of the how foliage works, which is quite low.
Okay, that's good, because not only do I think that's attractive, again, it's a nice sound deadening, et cetera. Has there been any communication or back and forth with either, I know when we get to public hearing, there'll be public notice and all that of everyone who's in the area, but has there been any feedback or interest or communication either with the Townhome Association or individual residents, anything to date?
No, there's not. There's a sign posted facing 182nd. Letters went out a little bit beyond our 250-foot radius. We haven't received any calls or
Okay.
comments.
So notice, was that notice of the public hearing or of this?
It was a notice of the public hearing.
Okay, all right,
So
good.
typically, those, just the way our process kind of works out, because we have to publish that within a certain distance of the public hearing.
Right.
Unfortunately, we sometimes don't get that feedback for this workshop portion of it, but we'll keep you
Okay.
apprised if we hear anything.
Good, good. It's the way the process works. I mean, that's their opportunity, right? Not after,
And we
hammers
branched
start
out,
pounding.
like she said, we branched out a little farther to make sure we weren't doing 90% of the block and not doing the rest of it, right? And so we just kind of notified everybody in the surrounding subdivision, in the townhomes.
So the
Right.
whole Glen Swilly, that you can see there, the Glen Swilly Court and 182nd, all of them received notices.
So, yeah, and they're obviously the ones that would be most affected by this. Yeah,
Okay.
They got it.
Could you bring up the list of open items again? As I said, we beat the heck out of number 3, so we don't need to go into that. And I think we covered many of the other ones. The number 4, for number 5, the question on the height of the fountain grass, I wasn't entirely sure what the question was. Is the concern, it looks like a living wall, right?
It's not a living wall.
Is the concern from staff that it would be too tall or not tall enough? I just want to understand or do we just want clarification?
Well, when I tried to search this type of planting,
Uh-huh.
it looked like very low height.
Okay.
So this is obviously shown as different.
All right. I think it's important to know which one it is. Depending on what the answer is, if it were a live wall, would that present a different problem?
I think we just want to know what it is.
Okay, that's fair enough.
That would be unique, so I think we were just looking at what is it? 'Cause
Might be a nice feature,
the
right?
planting and then what it looks like on the rendering don't really match up, so it's just like, well,
Okay,
you
and,
did a nice vine wall and it was, I like vines, I'm a Cubs fan, so it would be
yeah.
fine with me, but. we
all right,
just
so
kinda
that takes
wanna
care
know
of 3,
what-
4, and 5. What was number 6?
6 was discuss architectural compatibility, color aesthetics.
Okay. I will
And
just
height,
give
nice.
my 2 cents on that I think the design of the overall project looks nice. It is a contrast to the main building, but I think it's a nice contrast. And I like the additional point that staff brought up that should they try to put a patio on the other end or, around the corner or something, we'd want to try to be consistent. I like that idea. But other than that, I wouldn't have any concerns about the architecture as proposed. Any comments on that one from anyone in here? I think a couple of you said that you liked the look. It was a good looking thing. All right. Staff, have you gotten what you need? Fairly good guidance on the open questions and what the commissioners like and might not like?
For the most part, so the color everyone's okay with, the trellis and a lot of these planters are gonna be black. The nanowall frame is gonna be a reddish brown to match the other storefronts. So, you know, it's a considerable scale too. So if you're okay with the colors and the height of the fence wall, you know, architecturally, it is high, but it goes up to, you know, in a clean line to meet with the trellis. So that looks good.
It looks like it's capped nicely also. I like that. So that's good. From either the RJs or the owners, based on the discussion here, any questions or anything you want to add there? I think it's relatively positive here. All right, that's great. I'm looking forward to it. Opening day.
I don't know if you wanna do a little bit of what RJ's is gonna be. I don't know if you, like.
Sure, do you have the presentation?
I don't, I think they had it in their packets, right? But we don't have enough, but I don't know.
Well, I mean,
Just-
we can either do it here or we could do it.
We could do it at the public hearing.
At the
too, if there's-
public hearing, so we're not putting you on the spot or anything?
We're not doing it twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone's excited for it though,
Yeah.
but like good seafood.
I will tell you, just personally, as, you know, when I got the packet and I read through it, I liked the look of it, and then I got to the back of the packet, and I realized that, you know, the developer, the company, and that, you know, gave me a little bit additional comfort in it. Quite frankly, I'm very familiar with the organization and have been to many of the restaurants, and I know that it's not a fly-by-night. It's not your first time out. So those are all important things when we look at planning, and those are the kind of things I think it's important for everybody started their business at some point and had to take a chance. It's just that when you're entering into that thing from a planning perspective, it kind of raises the bar on, you know, making sure that everything, that the applicant has thought of everything, and then staff has to work extra hard to make sure the same thing. But when I saw the restaurant group, you know, I know that, you know, from a experience level, from a financial level, you know, it's all there. So I think it's a really good partnership opportunity for the village, so.
And that's sometimes with like newer restaurants can be really tricky, right? And like can have tight margins, but they know what they're doing, so.
Exactly.
Sometimes we have to handhold smaller people, but I think they'd probably be able to teach us quite a bit about the restaurant industry, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, we think they know what they're doing, so.
All right, well, I think we've exhausted this topic for the evening. Thank you for your time, and when we get the public hearing, it'll be a little more formal, but I think that between now and then, you know, the details, staff will work that out with you, and we'll be all set for public hearing on February 17th?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, excellent. Any parting shots from the rest of the commissioners here before we wrap up this item?
No, thank you for bringing projects to Tinley Park.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. At this point in the meeting, we're done with your item for the evening, so we don't want to force you to sit around. You invested your time here. Next item is to receive comments from the public. And do we have any members of the public here? Seeing none, we'll move on to good of the order. Anything for us, Dan or Lori?
At Village Board, they had approved the Dunkin' drive-through. That came before you guys, so the Village Board approved that. They also approved the Magnuson residences changes to that. There was a bond that's going to be required to be held And then they also put on some kind of specific deadlines for submittal of the permit, starting construction, things like that. Given some flexibility in there because things come up, but to kind of tie that all together. So the board approved that as well, and I know that was a lot of work on a lot of people's ends, so I think we're glad to see that kind of wrapped up and hopefully moving forward now, so. The Pete's Warehouse additions got approved. They're in for permit for that already, so they're doing kind of the originally approved additions, and then they'll do those front kind of office additions. And they're still marching forward on the grocery building too. That's important. Obviously, that's kind of the reason why the warehouse moved forward, so they're looking forward to getting going on that in spring, so.
Dan, where's the grocery building gonna be? Is that where the old Aldi is?
Yeah, it'll kind of be in line with Aldi and Sam's Club. It'll kind of be along that back row.
But it's
there.
new
And then-
construction.
New construction.
New construction, correct. So it'll be the grocery building, and then there's another 30,000 square feet or something like that of additional retail next to it. So they usually get pretty good tenants too, because I know they did that in Willowbrook and a couple others. They like having some just kind of nicer, bigger box tenants attached to them. So.
And that's hopefully likely to make the Aldi building more attractive if it's not already occupied by that.
And,
Hopefully.
yeah, that and the Applebee's. So somebody bought that Aldi building, and I think they're working through, well, we have an application for like a doggy daycare in there. They're working through some items because we have some concerns. But that was applied for, so whether they go forward with that or something else, I think the person who owns that now is gonna get someone in there. But that and the Applebee's have obviously, or former Applebee's, a lot of things. Those have struggled obviously a little bit, but I think this will definitely bring a lot of traffic to that area, so.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Yeah.
that'll.
Well, both of those
stop
properties,
some
I
of
think,
those
are
struggles.
benefiting from the Pete's.
Mhm.
So that's
Yep.
good.
Yep. The DR Horton project had been approved. They're progressing already on final plans, so come here in spring, I think you'll get the final approvals. They want to get it in the ground pretty quickly and start earthwork, start getting models up for the property at Oak Ridge, north of the older original Panduit site. So good to see them moving on that. The Starbucks on Harlem has their permit. I don't know if they started moving dirt yet, but if they're not now, they might have to wait till the snow melts, but they'll be doing it soon because they have their permit. Smoothie King's really close. They just resubmitted their plans and probably their last revision, so they should be close to getting going here too as soon as the weather breaks. Papa's Popcorn picked up their permit today, so the landlord was doing some work on the interior, kind of doing a white box, so like the floor and the walls and stuff like that, but then Papa's actually picked up their full build-out permit. So we're excited to see the first tenant of the boulevard, and a good tenant, a nice family-friendly retail shop of popcorn and other snacks go in there, so.
Did they have an approximate target time for open?
I'll let you know at the next, they just got the permit today, so I
Yeah.
think sometimes it takes a little bit to get contractors mobilized and out there.
Yep.
So
I'm-
maybe another couple weeks or maybe a month, and then they might have.
No, I'm
another-
just optimistic that they can get themselves open, by the summer, because it's a great summertime business. Hope
Yep.
they
Yep,
can make
pair
it.
that with the scoop, and I think you have a good combo down there of whatever snack you want.
That's right.
We'll have something good, and then you can even go to the marketplace and get your puppy a little, like doggy ice cream.
The Barkery,
Yeah, isn't it the marketplace? It's the marketplace.
is it?
Yes.
All right.
My dog is already approved of it multiple times, so. So the management analyst position, possibly in March, will be starting for our department. It's gonna function a little bit administrative, but also still have some management analyst side of code updates, analysis of processes and codes, and we have a lot of stuff they can do. So we're not short on work, and we're excited to have them hopefully on board come March. So an offer was made. I think they accepted it. They're just going through some background checks. And then actually pretty much the same with our business retention and expansion, BRE, economic development person. I think they just made an offer to them, and hopefully by March they can get appointed too. So a couple people there to add or backfill kind of some of our staff positions for economic development and just kind of operations. So there's a golf show at the convention center that's usually pretty big every year this weekend. So if you like golf or know somebody that does, go to the golf show. And then lastly, the village board bought the school property, the Lincoln Way School property on, or agreed to purchase it. And so did the school district on 191st and Harlem Avenue. Previously Walmart, Woodman's, there's a number of properties there. So the village is excited to kind of get control of that and then kind of look for some developers. I think the plans have always been retail. It's a great location over there off the expressway. So hopefully we can get a good developer who can kind of come in and master plan that and make it work for everyone. So
Was that, in terms of some of the projects that didn't pan out, was part of the stumbling block that it was owned by a public entity, not the village?
It added a layer to it, right? Because not only do you have to negotiate with the school district, then you're going through zoning entitlement processes while we can bring that all together, or even kind of pre-zone stuff, knowing we have control at the end of the day to sell it or not sell it. So it can help expedite it.
Is that Will County?
Yes.
Is it- That corner's Will County,
Yeah.
because that was one of the big reasons why, when my family owned that property where the farm is, like, we had major issues because that's Cook County. So
Yep.
nobody wanted to pay the Cook County taxes.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, other side of Harlem is, and that's a bigger struggle there. I'll say all those properties have some level of floodplain on them though too. It's just kind of part of the land that is left to develop in town usually has some underlying hurdles. So there is floodplain on it. That doesn't mean you can't build on it, and there's not options out there, but it makes it a little tougher and a little more expensive.
Is that outside the MWRD, though? Or is
I
it
think it's
still-
in there, it's in Will County, but I think it goes into MWRD.
Okay.
I know Brookside Marketplace does. I'm not 100% sure of this one, but I think it does. So that is a hurdle, but not one I don't think we can't get over. The other issue was access too. So like there's the light that aligns with Brookside Marketplace where you exit from Target. That aligns with the creek. So it's kind of tough if you're gonna line up with that light and get an access point, that wasn't the best planning from the beginning, not taking into account where that would align across the street. So I know that was one of Woodman's biggest hurdles was they wanted a light further west where the kind of secondary access point to Brookside Marketplace is and goes around the back. They really wanted a light there but couldn't get it due to the proximity of the other ones. So we'll work through it though, and so hopefully we can work through some of those issues and
it was sad to see Woodman's go.
and yeah, we'd always be interested for them to come back. And Woodman's is a really unique developer too. They kind of do like one or two projects a year, and but it's a cool company and a good store. So we'd love to have them back if anyone knows anyone. So that's all I have.
Great. All right. So I just want to say for my part, I think Chairman Gray is doing a fabulous job, but I always enjoy sitting in. It's a good time. I just wanted to, while I have the soapbox here, apologize, guys. I just want to toss one thing out here. You brought up the Magnuson apartment thing there, and I'm glad to see that it's moving forward. It's been through the village board, and that's settled. I will just say for my part, because I was involved and aware the entire time, I'm fully aware of what a challenge that was for everybody involved on the village side, in particular, staff, both the first time around and this time around, did a great job, put in a lot of effort, and for me, I recognize that and I appreciate that. There was a lot of hard work and a lot of challenges associated with that. So I wanted to acknowledge that. Another point that I want to bring up on that is, boy, what a great object lesson that project is and was for understanding how the process works, right? I can't recall, was it maybe, were both of you guys on it? Yeah, so across the board, that was just a challenge, and it was a demonstration of how the process works and sometimes doesn't work. But the ins and outs and just consulting, with village attorneys and just all of that, it was a lot of work, and it shows, to me anyway, it shows how important all of that really is, and how important it is to have staff and elected officials in there doing, putting in all that work, above and beyond, and then to have commissioners who are actually reading reports and asking questions and, doing that work. So to me, that goes, and quite frankly, and this is a little personal, I will just say, everybody involved, every vote is a deciding vote, because everybody votes, all right? The deciding vote is not the last person who votes. So I will just point that out there. But I'm glad we're through that, and I think it was a good exercise, and I'm optimistic that that project will eventually conclude, and we'll just have a nice set of apartments out there for everybody. All right, so that's my soapbox. Anything else from the commissioners? If not, entertain a motion to close this thing for the evening.
So move.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Manny, second Commissioner Lasciuto, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.